Okay, welcome back, guys. Sorry it's been so long since I produced another video. Believe me, I've got a whole list of videos that I want to start knocking on. I thought I'd do this history. It's like a little CMM history, at least the history that I have experienced in my career. So what this picture is a Browne and Sharpe validator. The first experience I had was in 1988. And it was a machine that looked almost identical to this. If you can see, it is not a CNC. So let's see if we can find some pictures. So that's the table. It had the inserts. This right here was the master ball that we would leave on there. Little side view, back view, side view. These right here were locks where you can lock the axis from moving. You can see these two right here broke off on this one. This is just a random picture. The first one I had did have a Renaissance probe on it. You can see these cables right here about half busted up. Let's go back to the other one. So what you would do, you would grab the Z-axis somewhere around the Renaissance probe, and you would hand move this around. So the problem with that was, and keep in mind it's 1988 technology, and it worked, but the problem was that, so if I took and set a part on this table and measured it, and then I had a co-worker come in and measure it, he may be getting things dimensions slightly different, like a thousandth, as much as a thousandth, sometimes two different. It's because when he moved the X, Y, and Z, he may have a harder touch than I did. So he would slam the part where I had a soft touch. And so you would get a little bit of inconsistencies in that. So let's look at this picture right here. This computer screen was a newer version. Ours had the old DOS screen on it, and it had no graphics whatsoever, but it still measured. This right here was the air valve, where you could control how fast this the quill dropped on you. Let's see if we can find. So those are the two validator pictures. So I'm looking at this one. So after a while, we decided to upgrade it, and and I'll show you the actual pictures. This is and that's sorry for the graininess of it, but it's an actual picture of the Starrett CMM that was bought later. Let me show you a few things about that. I've got a better picture. Here's one. Now, if you notice on this one, this is not the one we actually had. Here's your master ball. If you notice, this was bought around 95, 96 maybe. But if you notice, it's got the granite column, granite leg, granite over here. It's got a ceramic quill that goes up and down. And the one we had was fully CNC. So you would drive it everywhere, just like the Mitutoyo that I've been making the videos on. Back then, they felt like that, well, manufacturers felt like, to keep the stability of the CMM, they needed to make the bridge and the rails, the height support rails, out of granite. Now, it wasn't solid granite, it was like ½ inch thick, cut and boxed together. So it was, in a sense, this, and this was hollow, so it wouldn't be extremely heavy. They worked great, but the problem is that whenever let's just say, if you come in there to the CMM room and you measured a part, then after, let's just say you got up and walked back out to run another part, make an adjustment, and you left the machine on. Well, the motors, the servo motors that drove the X, Y, and Z axis would sit there and fire, in a sense. They would fire to keep that in the position all the time. So if you've ever looked at a CMM and it's just sitting there. You can see the XYZ fluctuating a little bit. Well, in this case, the machine would fire and the motors would try to maintain that position all day long. Well, after 2 years, we had like an X or a Z axis servo motor burn up. And when the service guy come in, I was like, this is crazy. We don't even use it hardly. We use it, 20 times a day. And he said, what do you do when you get done using it? And I said, we walk away from it. Because rather than rebooting it all and recalibrating it, we just leave it on all day long. But he said, what you really need to start doing is hit the emergency stop to kill the juice to the servos, and you wouldn't burn your motors out. So after we burn up 2 out of the 3 servo motors, we finally learned. So that was some of the weirdness, I call it weirdness, that went on in the 90s with the CMMs. Now, it's a fantastic machine. And let me go back to the picture of the one. They actually just sold this machine. The software was completely outdated. The servo motors, I'm sure, are about half shot. But if you bought this machine, say for $5,000, the granite is still good. So you could get this number of outfits that retrofit CMMs. So you can get a company to come in $15,000, $20,000 to put in new software, or either just a whole new computer system, new servo motors. You may or may not need to update the probe. The Renaissance probes are pretty solid, pretty sound. They've been around forever. More than likely the probe is still okay. You may just need a new tip. So you buy it for $5,000, put 20 grand in it. Voila, you've got a new retrofitted CMM for 25 grand, where a new CMM this size would probably run you 80 to 100 grand at least. So retrofitted CMMs are not bad because the granite and the rails are typically not messed up. It's the software and the servo drives that are worn out in it. So then we fast forward to today. There was another one I ran. I don't have a picture of it. Let's swap over. Come on, let's swap over to the Mitutoyo. This is the one that we're currently using right now. There was another machine that I had a limited run on. It was a Mitutoyo. It wasn't a Krista Apex brand. It was probably an early 2000s model, and it ran PC Demus software. Some of you guys out there running PC Demus, that is a huge brand in the CMM world. Kind of like Fanuc. You may have Fanuc drives on tons of different CNC machines with their own Fanuc drives with their own software. PC Demus is kind of like a software that several manufacturers use. The argument is out there that PC Demus is better than the MCOSMOS. I can tell you I never ran PC Demus enough to really get a feel for it, so I can't speak to that. So anyway, that machine had PC Demus, and I ran it for maybe 2 weeks and really didn't learn all the ins and outs to it before I came access to this one. So this is just I want to point out, if you look, these are not granite. The bridge, the leg, and this column right here, this is not ceramic. I think it's actually aluminum. So later on, after the granite years, I think manufacturers finally realized that, we don't need all that granite up here, here, and here for the stability. For one thing, it's super expensive to do that, and when this construction will work just as fine, but we definitely need a granite table. So anyway, that's a little CMM history lesson from my experience. Now, everybody out there has got different experience, but I did want to point out the difference between the hand motions on the Validator. The hand movements, and then we move to the Starrett with the granite head, but servos would burn up. And then now this machine that I'm currently utilizing is probably 10 years old, and it's still in fantastic shape. The motors don't sit there and fire all day long. That was one of my specific questions when I went for training. Does these motors fire all day long? And he reassured me that they do not. So, and we haven't seen any evidence of it here. So thanks for watching, and I hope to start cranking out some more videos on the CMM or in some other subjects. Thanks for watching.